All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Leah helping out Ricardo this morning. I'm here with Jameson Peavyhouse from Rapid SOS, our gold sponsor, and he's going to be talking about a culture worth bragging about. Jameson, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate all the work this morning getting us ready this early in the morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining so early. If you haven't got your third cup of coffee yet, please grab it right quick. This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about culture and what it means, but we're going to give you some key takeaways and examples about how you can change the culture in your comm center or even in your private sector job if you're working in the private sector as well. And I learned a lot of this through just working here at Rapid SOS and all the things that we do to ensure that we have a culture of excellence. There are a lot of ways you can impact your culture, but I just want to start off this morning in the chat asking, when I say the word culture, what things come to your mind? How do you quickly describe the word culture? And I've seen some folks already in here about beliefs, attitudes, your way of thinking. Somebody says I need 2 cups of coffee for a question like that. That's very, very true. Not a good question to ask after a 12-hour shift. So I know who the telecommunicators are in the room. Thank you very much. But I think about the word culture and you think where it actually originated from. And it's from a Latin term, cultus, and it's pretty simple. The Latin term means to care. And that's probably when I think about culture, the most important aspect of what we're going to cover today. How do we care for our people? How do we care for our callers? How do we care for our community? And how do we care for ourselves? And sometimes we nail the first two or three and we forget that last one. So this morning, I don't know if these pictures you'll see here to this presentation, I'm not much of putting words on the screen, a lot of pictures. Does anybody know what a stack of rocks is called when you're out hiking? Oh, Joyce nailed it. Music, art, beliefs. Exactly. Yep. So I wanted to call this presentation How to Be a Karen, because if you're out hiking and a stack of rocks is actually called a Karen, Cairn. However, I was overruled by our people ops team, said that's probably not appropriate. So I thought I'd just share the joke anyway. So let's move ahead really quickly. I want to talk about a petri dish. And some of you have, when I was with Nina as the president, we talked a lot about petri dishes as I traveled across the country. And a petri dish really has just a one or two functions. That's it. There's a piece of glass and a substrate in that glass that allows you to add something to it. And when you take that piece of glass and you go to add something to it, what you're doing is like you're injecting something that you want to measure for growth. And typically in biology, we call that a culture. And the reason we call it a culture is because we look and measure how things grow and evolve over time and what things externally and internally impact that growth and how can we actually grow better objects or how do we get rid of certain things like bacteria, viruses, etc. Now, typically, if you look at the actual definition of a culture, is typically like I think it was Joyce here said, it's a collection of people around a similar likes or interests, such as music, such as food. You know, if I think about the culture of New Orleans, music and great food and just a great atmosphere there. I think about the culture in Tennessee, right? It's about fried food. It's always about fried food. We will fry anything. I had a fried Snickers the other day. Fantastic. You should try it. If I think about the culture of Colorado, my friend Dave, works and lives, the hikes and the beautiful mountains and the crisp air. And I think about the things they enjoy, right? Breweries and meeting together in common places. That's great. We're going to kind of focus on this more the verb tense of culture, which is to grow something like we would in a petri dish. Now, for every culture, you have to have that catalyst. You have to have something to inject into that petri dish to start a growth. Now, in 911, we have multiple catalyst moments. Now, I've listed a couple of them here, and you know really quickly that hiring is the easiest way to impact a culture, right? You get to pick and choose from your local geography who's going to sit behind that headset and represent public safety to the community at large. Their first point of contact. When I think about critical incidents, so we were having a discussion yesterday, really discussing a critical incident that we had with a collapsed building and how the culture about that, here we are 15, 16 years later, when you ask the responders who were on that mound together, what do you remember about that horrific moment? And most every one of them will come back and say, I remember what we had to do to accomplish the mission. I remember how we sweated together. I remembered how we had to, once we realized we had all the survivors out, that we took a break and somebody brought us lunch and then we went back into the mound to finish recovering the rest of the people in there. Those are the things that we remember as a culture, and then that glued us together as a response function. You also have a chance to change the culture with new technologies and systems. I know we all love a change in CAD, right? We just absolutely adore those moments in CAD changes or call handling changes. Maybe we're adopting text to 911. Maybe we're adopting IoT things into the platform. All those moments are just catalyst moments for us to say, you know what, how can we do this in a way that actually impacts our culture, reduces stress in telecommunicators? Leadership changes, that's a huge one because you never know when you have somebody coming in from the outside, pardon me, what kind of culture are they going to bring? What kind of leadership style are they going to bring? Are they going to be more of a manager or are they going to be a leader? Are they a mix of the two? Those things are hugely important. But really, where culture changes is in the next two. It's about a motivated employee, someone who takes the time early on a Wednesday morning to come and listen to a bunch of classes when they just got off work because they want to have a better place of work. They want to be the person that actually goes in and says, you know what, I'm going to do my small part to change this culture over time, which leads into the second part, training, conferences, being able to do things remotely or even in person, learning from our neighbors and not being stuck in our what I call microcosm, not just being stuck in our own little world about, this is the way we've always done it. We can't change it. There's probably a better way. So those last two, the motivated employee, like you yourself here this morning, and also the training and conferences, which you're doing today, those are great catalyst moments to start changing the culture in a comm center for the good, for the betterment. It's also a potential risk to say we can also impact it. So negative. So how do we keep from doing that? There we go. We have to look at the variables that we're injecting into this culture, right? So we have the petri dish. We have this catalyst moment this morning. You are the catalyst. We got to think about the variables that impact that culture. Now in biology, we think about things that could impact that culture. The light in the room impacts the growth of a culture. The temperature of the room, whether it's 68 degrees or 105, definitely impacts the culture. The moisture content in the room. If you've ever been through a massive flood event where you're cleaning up houses and things, you know that mold loves high moisture and high temperatures, and it just grows like wildfire. And so those things really impact the growth level of that culture. Other variables, contamination. This is a kid's handprint. Don't touch kids, they're nasty. But this is a kid's handprint, just a few days allowing that culture to grow into a high temperature, high humidity environment. Now we have a lot of variables in our comm center. We talked about a few of those already, but we're going to talk about four variables today, four vectors to be able to impact your culture. And they are belonging, vulnerability, purpose, and the last one is a word that we've coined here on the public safety team at Rapid SOS, and that is intentionality. And of all these things, we're going to walk through these really quickly. But I want you to think about this entire process. How can we be intentional about every opportunity that we have to impact our culture to be better, to care for our team, to care for ourselves, to care for our family, to care for our community? Now, I love this picture, and I don't know if Rob is on this morning. This is one of my favorite pictures, particularly my time at NINA. This is Rob and I on the stage at the NINA conference sharing an inappropriate joke. You can tell in our faces that, oh, okay, maybe we took that a little bit too far, but it was fantastic. That's the culture I love. We know in public safety that sometimes we have to look at the dark side of humanity and we have to laugh at it. We have to laugh in the face of that darkness, right? Because if we don't, it will consume us. And I think about those belonging cues that we have. Now, there are certain things in our mindsets that our brain, our subconscious brain does to tell us a few things about whether we belong. Now, some of those, fight or flight, we know those very well, right? But in the comm center, I'm going to share with you, there's a 1 in 5 rule that's going on today that's probably impacting our subconscious that we don't think about. So first of all, Project Retains, back many, many years ago, said that basically you're going to see anywhere between 12 to 20%, 20% is 1 in 5, of your staff turnover each year. I think that's probably changed quite a bit since COVID, right? We get this idea like, I just can't be here. I can't do this anymore. It's just too much. The pay's not enough. I don't like the hours. I don't like working midnight straight, right? Those kind of things impact the way we feel about how we work and where we work. But there's another 1 in 5 rule. And as this team here at Public Safety at Rapid SOS has traveled the country, we're seeing on average around a 20% vacancy rate in the comp center, meaning that I have the positions, I can't find the people. I have open slots in my budget. I can't find a worthy person to work behind that console. And so, but you put those two things together, 1 in 5 project retains. You may lose 20% of your staff in the coming year. 1 in 5 that we're seeing today, I'm already down 20%. How do we change this? How do we get people qualified, worthy people to sit behind the headset in the comm center in a job that's many times not thankful, very hidden, and let's just be honest, life changing for us, right? It's really extremely stressful. Well, one of those ways is belonging queue. And belonging queue is a steady stream of very small moments that are individualized to that person, talking about the future and their amygdala activating. Jameson, okay, look, we haven't had enough coffee this morning. That's a whole lot of words there. We're going to break it down. Intentionality. It's a steady stream. We're looking for the smallest moments to impact our culture, right? We're looking for the moment to where someone says, hey, I'm out today. My daughter's got, flu A. Oh man, is there anything I can do for you? Can I send you some food? Can I do anything for you? How can I help cover? Those steady streams constantly being there ready to support our team and to care. Individualized, it's about me, right? Now, I'm not saying that everything's about me. I'm just saying, like, how do I make my actions as a person about someone else's important moment? Future oriented. The old adage about, hey, if we were on a deserted island, what would you bring to the table? Those future oriented things. They're also amygdala activating. The amygdala is that fight or flight response, right? We talked about this a moment ago. I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I've got to go. The other one is, you know what? I'm going to be here, but by gosh, stop running VIN numbers at the Walmart parking lot because I am done with this. That whole fight mechanism. And we feel that, right? Because we're human. The amygdala does something else when it's at rest. It is a steady stream to your body saying, hey, you're safe here. And that's what we're looking to hit. Now, every time that 911 line rings, right? Every time we start that incident, that traffic stop that goes sideways, right? The pursuit, the amygdala activates is like, okay, here we go. We're ramping up our sympathetic nervous system. Our pupils are dilating, our breathing's increasing, our digestive system stops basically, all the blood moves to the core, and we're super stressed. We're like, oh my God, we gotta hurry up. How do we impact that on the opposite side when those things are not going on to ensure that we feel safe in the space that we're working in? Now, I will tell you that the amygdala really understands how we process our environment. Now, I would say that when we look at history, we look at the folks who are studying the amygdala, there are a lot of ways that we can impact that. One of those is talking about how we can make people feel safe inside the comps. There was a study many years ago at one of the banks during the financial crisis, and they just are having a huge turnover issue, right? And it was constantly people turning over. The crazy thing is they couldn't figure out why people were leaving. Like they knew it was stressful, but they were doing all the extra pay. They were giving people overtime. They were giving them time off, but people were still just burnt out. And what they found is like, if we just focus on very small things, those steady streams, what they did, they went into the break room and they bought a very, very nice coffee machine for their staff. They spent the extra money. And if you're an admin today, you're a director, you're a supervisor, you have in charge of budget, one of the best things you can do to care for your people is listen to what they want. If they're a coffee drinking group of folks like I am, a nice coffee machine, supply them with K-cups or whatever it is. Show them that you care. There's a great side effect of that. The more coffee they drink, the more work they do. So double win. Secondly, they moved out all the small little tables and stuff and put in one large farm table inside their break room, just so that as people gathered on breaks, they would have to sit together and just converse. We see this a lot inside the firehouse. You go to a firehouse, there's not like little pods of tables sitting here and there, right? There's typically a long table and a stove that they cook at and they eat together. And that camaraderie builds trust. It builds safety. It allows them to know that if we get into a bad situation, I'm going to be there for you because I know I trust you. Now that fighter feeling of safety, that feeling of I can be here and I can make this happen, I can make this work, isn't always positive. Now I'm going to play about a 2-minute video here, and this is incredible to watch how a team working together. At first, it's kind of like get your stuff together, but then something changes. Let's see if we get the audio here. If you don't hear the audio, please let me know in the chat.
What?
Instructor Pat Stone is probing each student's commitment to the boat crew's leader and to each other. The only way off old misery is to work together as a crew.
What? Get it up there! One! Okay, in order to get off this log and go back on your own small little log that weighs a hell of a lot less than this, you're going to have to keep that log extended arm for 45 seconds. Get it the first time, go back to your log. Whenever you're ready. Time has started. Do it right the first time, you're done.
Almost there.
Last crew did it. Last crew did it first shot.
Almost there. Come on. Keep it up. Almost there. Come on. Come on. Keep it up. Come on.
Oh, no. Right hand shoulder position move. Gentlemen, you had 4 seconds left. 4 seconds left, and you would be back on your small little logs in Holly. I don't like this little defeatist attitude you've developed. You see that attitude? It just makes us want to crush you. If you accept defeat again, I'll bring you right back over, and I'll make it twice as hard.
Let's do it, fellas. Let's do it.
Extend it arm. Get it up. Whenever you get it off your head, we'll start the time. Right hand shoulder position move. Mr. Holly, do you need to switch anybody around on this log?
Hey, somebody needs to get up front. I'll get up front.
You realize, Mr. Holly, that this is your log. You are in charge of it, just like you're in charge of a boat.
Moving on.
You might need to spread your power around. Extended arm, 45 seconds. Get it up. And time has started. Everybody works together. Everybody works equal. Not all that bad.
Almost there. Come on, fellas.
Get it up. Keep it up.
Keep it up. Get that thing up. 4 seconds. Come on.
PT is fairly on your regular log. As long as everybody's putting out, holding their weight. Keep it up. And right hand, shoulder position move. Right hand starting position move. Yeah, you can't forget about that penalty. Gentlemen, if you want to come back, just feel free to shoot up on your old log. Go. What?
The amount of communication that happened right there is amazing. And it's not communication of the guy screaming in your face. And it's not the communication of, hey, we got to get this together. We got to make this happen. It's the communication that's happening down the length of old misery, which is what they call that log. As they're holding up this burden over their head, they can feel the weight of that log shifting in small increments. It's starting to tilt down in the front because the guy in the front is shorter, right? It's starting to waver a little bit. They're feeling that weakness creep into their arms. And they understand that because they're connected over this misery, right? Or they're connected over this burden over their heads, they're able to feel one another, but also as a team feel that they're losing that traction. Now, the first iteration was, right, we're going to yell at them, right? We're going to try to motivate them. My God, we're going to go, we're going to go, we're going to go. That works sometimes, but motivation is very short-lived. Uh-oh. So good? Okay. Motivation is very short-lived. It allows us to get through really short problems, right? That tornado that comes through and we're super busy for 3 or 4 days. What you're looking for is really what happens next. It's the team coming together and say, hey, we got to go. But the real culture piece happens when the instructor says, do you want to make a change? Do you want to spread your power around? And we right? People on this call today as leaders, the people who are invested in this, who are the catalyst moments, the catalyst person, can spread our power around by saying, you know what, I got that for you. Come into the middle where it's easier. Let me take the front for a little while. That belonging is massive. That is huge. And I look here at this picture of us, this is some of our team members when we were out in, I think we were outside of Denver for an offsite, just sitting around, just talking about our day, just telling jokes and doing that. We don't get to do that a lot in public safety, right? Particularly in the 911 center. We always had the sheriff's department had their Christmas party, and the police had their Christmas party, and the city had their Christmas party, and 911 had to work. So we were still in the comm center, and it's hard for us to get together because we're in that 24/7 environment. Belonging is so important, but it's those small individualized moments. The next one's vulnerability. This is my son and I. He at the time, I think he was 9. And we decided to do this crazy, stupid hike up in near Salt Lake City. And I was worried about him, right? Because he was small. He had the phone in his hand. He would take a lot of pictures. He's scrambling up these rocks. It was an incredibly difficult hike. Really, what I should have been worried about was myself, because I'm older and fatter than he is. And he was just scampering up, no problem at all. And I was really having the problem. And I remember him coming to me like, "Hey, Dad, why don't you just take a break? Just sit down for a minute," because I was carrying the backpack. And I was like, wow, I'm watching out for him, but I'm also teaching him to watch out for others. And that vulnerability is huge. Now, we think of vulnerability really as almost like this thing that's bad, that it's really like, I can't show vulnerability. I'm in public safety. I've got to put on the mask. I've got to go to work. I've got to impact the public safety of my community and do it in a way that's professional, blah, blah, blah. But vulnerability really is an extremely powerful tool to grow belonging in your team and to set up a culture for success. Now, I'm going to show this video really quickly. This is an amalgamation of 2 videos. One, it's a documentary. The first part is about what's going on. And so basically, we've had a plane that's had a massive failure in the air, United Flight 232. And on this plane is Danny Fitch. And Danny Fitch is the nation's best trainer for this particular aircraft. So you know those moments in 911 where you have like the proverbial fecal matter hits the fan and you're like, oh man, I just wish Rick was here. Man, I just wish that Josh was here. I just wish that Karen was here because it would be so much better. That's the person you want, right? Danny Fitch, he's that guy. He knows everything with this aircraft. He's been hundreds and thousands of hours in this aircraft. He has trained the pilots who are flying this aircraft. And when something goes wrong, that's the person you want with you. But I want you to pay close attention to what happens during this emergency and how Danny approaches this team as a leader who has all the answers, but also is very humble.
Denny Fitch is a DC-10 training pilot flying home from an instructor session. He knows that something is wrong and offers his help. 329. What Denny finds in the cockpit shocks him.
It was an amazing scene for me because both the pilots were in fact on the controls. Both of them, their tendons in the forearms were raised from effort. Their knuckles were white from grip.
Hey, go ahead, help. Don't worry about it. Yell what you want now. Hey, one, two. Peter, I get it. Try and put it in Iowa. Well, we're going to have the gear down. Keep the airplane on the ground and stop standing up. Give it 3 seconds. Pull you back. Hard to be done. 1,500. Roll back. Over the meeting, great. And then if we have to evacuate, we're going to evacuate with tanks. Have my done. Stand up, buddy. Good luck, sweetheart. Lock up and put everything away. Help me through this week. Back. Right down. We have to keep. Got to use it right now. Close them all.
Not the expected outcome, right? Not where we thought this was going to go. So Danny Fitch is in there, and they've lost basically all of their controls of the elevators. They're unable to use their stabilizers, anything, right? They can't even how to get the gear down. And Danny's in there. He's just trying to control the thrust on each side of the each engine on each wing, trying to keep the plane in some semblance of moving through. When they approached the runway, they were running twice the normal speed for a landing. Now, 285 souls on board, 190 walked away. That's incredible. They put the same scenario in a simulator to 30 other pilots, and every single one of them wound up in a hole in the ground in the middle of Iowa. Nobody was able to get it down. In the comm center, in public safety, we face so many moments like this where it's just incredibly difficult for us to wrap our minds around how can this moment, this incredible tragedy that we are facing internally, individually, as a team, as a community, how do we move past this? Is there a tomorrow after this? 1 year ago this week, in the comm center where I used to work, late at night, an EF3, almost an EF4 tornado came through our town and destroyed 165 homes in 3 minutes. How do you handle that? Right? I think we had 2 or 3 people working at the time. There was no way to get into work. Within about 20 minutes, we lost almost all communications. And it's, how do you get past that moment? I look at it now a year later, and I see what our community did and how we came together, but really see how public safety came together. And we argued and we fought about who's doing what, who's going where. But in the end, we were all fighting to accomplish the mission. And again, that was a great catalyst moment. It was a tragic moment, but it was a great catalyst moment for us to continue to grow and to evolve and to have trust and safety and belonging within our groups. Not sure. Every single time I do that, there we go. But we look at vulnerability being a strength. You walk into a cockpit and you see them struggling to keep the airplane in the air where it belongs. And you hear the pilot say some things, and hey, this is your pilot speaking. By the way, I've got this. It's no big deal. And we're going to have some. No. The pilot was very, very vulnerable. We need elevator control. I don't know how to get it. We're going to go to try to Sioux City, but it's going to be rough. Very short burst of communication. I really have my doubts. That's not what I want to hear from my pilot. I want to hear from my pilot, I got this. It's all good. Or I've got this. If we can keep the plane on the ground, meaning that is we can just hit the ground and stick it instead of tumbling, which is not what happened. And then he turns to the flight attendant and says, "Good luck, sweetheart." What are you, Humphrey Bogart? I mean, come on. You need to make sure you have control of the aircraft. When they interview the pilot later, he says the 4 dumbest words I ever said in my life was, "I have the aircraft." And what happened is the co-pilot was actually flying the plane when this catastrophic failure happened. And he grabs the controls because the co-pilot was struggling. He's like, "I got this. I have the aircraft." And when he grabbed it, it wrenched his arm sideways because he's like, "What? I didn't have it at all. The aircraft had me." Many times when we're training people, right? We have the proverbial newbie, the new member of the team, and they get to that point to where we're doing the observation and they're handling most all the calls, and all of a sudden something major comes in, right? And you can see them kind of vapor like, "What happened? Okay, what's next?" And our initial intent is to jump in. "I got this. Let me show you how this is done. I've done that before." And then I get on the phone. I'm like, oh, this is the school bus wreck. Okay, so I don't have this either, right? But in those moments where we can teach that belonging, allow our trainees, allow our team members to kind of struggle a little bit, but just be there quietly saying, "Let me know what you need." Danny Fitch did this. He walked to the aircraft, the most knowledgeable person in the entire fleet, probably in the entire United States on that particular aircraft. He didn't walk in and say, "Give me the aircraft. I know this plane backwards and forwards." No, he walked in, the first things out of his mouth, "Tell me what you want, and I'm going to help you." That's powerful. That's powerful. Like, I want to know what your needs are, and then I'm going to help you meet those needs. That's crazy, right? When we think about approaching our staff like that, I challenge you to adopt this term. You want a New Year's resolution? Use this term once a week with your team for next year. Just walk in. Something's going on. There's a heart problem. They come to you with a family issue. Okay, tell me what you want, and I'm going to help you. And then commit to helping them and follow through. Now, as leaders, sometimes we jump to conclusions really quickly. Now, I'm going to play this, and I am sure that there are some quality assurance managers in this room. So don't think about it from the lens of quality assurance just yet. The mistakes here are intentional, and just a shout out and I thank Virtual Academy for sharing this with me. This is part of their training deck that they did on stress management for telecommunicating. I appreciate them allowing us to use this morning.
4191, be advised, we'll get Jones's Record Service en route.
Oxford County 911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, this is Hannah at dispatch. We have an accident, no injuries. It appears to be a 2016 Nissan Altima. It's
Phone
going to be
number you're
black in
calling from?
color. Yeah, they're at the intersection of Henry Street and Highway 217.
Oxford County 911, where is your emergency?
He fell in a pool.
Ma'am, slow down. Tell me where you are.
We're out by the pool. 1259 Main Street.
Did you say 1259 Main Street? 1259 Main Street?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What happened?
He fell in the pool. I didn't see.
Is he breathing?
No, he's not breathing.
Okay, yes,
All right, did you get him out of the water?
I pulled him out. He's here beside
Okay,
me.
is he breathing?
He's not breathing.
No? Okay.
I don't know what to do.
Ma'am, I'm going to help you. Listen, I need you to lay him on his back. Put your hand on his forehead,
Okay.
and then tilt his head back. That way you can keep his airway open.
Okay, yes, thanks.
And then with your other hand, I want you to put 2 fingers under his chin. Yep, the bony part of his chin. Put your cheek down by his face. Listen and feel for any breaths that might be going through.
No, he's not breathing. He's not breathing.
Do you feel a pulse?
No.
Do you see anything in his mouth?
In his mouth. No, I don't see anything in his mouth.
You don't see anything in water, nothing.
Next EMS, be advised, we have a possible 4-year-old drowning, 1259 Main Street. That's
Do you know
1259
how
Main
to
Street.
do CPR?
Oh, God, I used to know.
That's okay. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you how to do chest compression only CPR. Are you ready?
Yes, tell me. I'm ready.
Do you have anybody there that can help you with this?
Your timeout is
No, I'm here
1313.
by myself.
That's okay. Here's what we're going to do. I need you to find the middle of the
I
breastbone.
don't know.
Right? You're going to take the heel of your hand, put it in the middle of the chest, right between the nipples. Yeah. Now, with your other hand on his forehead, you can keep his head tilted back. That's important. We've got to keep that airway open. If you have somebody there, they can help you with that. I mean, do you have anybody available to you?
Metro Air Evac, this is Oxford County 911. We need an activation for a possible 4-year-old drowning. CPR is in progress. Do you have anyone available?
That's fine. Second.
Yes, I'll stand by.
Right? Well, you're going to have to push the chest almost halfway in. Right? Yeah. Keep your hands on the chest, but make sure you let it spring back every time.
Metro Air Evac confirming that's a no due to weather.
Yes, you can do this. Here's
All
what
right.
we're going to
Okay.
do.
Yes,
I
thank
need you to do 200 compressions and then come back to me for more instructions. All right. So you put me on speakerphone, and then you're going to lay the phone down, do 200 compressions. That's 2 times per second. And come back. For more instructions. You ready? Go.
Hey, you can't run because of weather.
What am
I'm trying neighbor. Okay, you're doing good. Keep it up. Confirming EMS 31. That's an ETA of 8 minutes.
That's tough. And I'm pretty sure everybody on this phone or everybody on this call today has very similar stories, right? We probably go back to that moment in our head. I know I do every time I see this incident. Now, for the quality assurance folks, I know there's like a dozen notes you're taking right there, right? But this is that moment that we know that we're going to have the opportunity to do quality assurance, and it's one of the most important things that we do to ensure that we're giving the highest level of service. But what about the quality of life for this young telecommunicator? When you follow this story in the full course from Virtual Academy, you understand that he has a small child at home, and that as he goes throughout his day trying to go home, it really impacts him. He starts hearing the flashbacks, the audio. He's visualizing in his mind what's going on, right? He's detached from his family. Those are moments that we can impact. And yes, we're going to get to the quality assurance side to ensure that we empower that telecommunicator with the tools they need, understand the processes and the flow. But we've also got to make sure that we are there to care for him. Now, we talked about with Danny Fitch walking in, all those things that are going on between the pilot, the co-pilot, and Danny. Short things. I got to get elevator control. I don't think we're going to make Sioux City. It's going to be rough. Those very quick moments. And we see that dispatch all the time in high stress environments, where he says, hey, I need a helicopter, right? Very quick, very, very short phrases back and forth because we all understand the mission. That's a great place to continue growing that culture, right? That's an external influencer, right? The heat goes up, the culture grows. The heat goes down, the culture doesn't grow as fast. So we had to find ways to inject into that. So short moments like that are very important. How do we lead with vulnerability? There's a fine line here, right? For me, it's how can I just be 100% honest with myself and then turn around and be 100% honest with my team? And part of it is, hey, I promised you I was going to do this for you. I forgot and I failed. So I want to make it right. Here's what I'm going to do as a leader to ensure a better relationship between you and I. But lastly, could you meet me halfway by coming to me with issues that bothered you earlier? Let's talk about this really quickly. If an employee approaches us sometimes in our comm center or a coworker, and they're sharing with you an intense moment that maybe is going on in their personal life or their professional life or their health or whatever it may be, and we're like, hey, if you need me, you call me, all right? You need me, you call me. And then they call us. We're like, I'm too busy to deal with that right now. And we've kind of let them down a little bit. When that happens, we have to make sure we follow back up. And we are all busy. We all have our own issues to work with. But the second part of this is like, here's what I'm going to do to make it better next time. But the third part is even more important. It's very subtle. Could you meet me halfway? That tells you that, like, I am owning my part in this for our culture to grow, but I can't do it alone. And this is where that culture begins to grow and to spread and to move out and to start really impacting us at scale. How do we continue working that? This is a daily commitment. Small individualized moments, right? Now, we are in public safety for a purpose, for a mission. One, because I'm sure we love adrenaline. But two, I would say the majority of people that we hire today, why do you want to be a 911? What's their number one answer? Well, I just want to help people. Okay. Can you tell me more about that? And when people start thinking about, well, when I was a kid, my grandmother, blah, 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 and I had this issue and she fell and broke her hip, and there seems to be some catalyst moment in their past that pushes them into the realm of public safety because they have a purpose now. So we have found that in purpose, it's hard to describe, much like culture. Is the purpose you have, is it a vision? Is it something that you said, when I grow up, I want to be a cop, right? And then we grew up and we're like, oh yeah, let's be a telecommunicator instead because it's a much cooler job. Is it a mission? Is it like, oh, I want to change the world. I want to help people. Is it a mission statement, right? Is it something that like we have set up for ourselves? My personal mission statement. It's actually a quote out of scripture, and it's he did not come to be served, but to serve, and to offer his life as a ransom for many. And for public safety, that's what we do every day. We ransom our lives, our time away from our kids, our time away from our family, our Christmases, our Thanksgivings. We ran some away ball games and birthdays and all those things. Something of value that we are giving up for the safety of others because we're answering the call. Is it your values, right? Is it like, you know what? I believe it is my responsibility as a human to help impact people in a positive manner. Here at Rapid SOS, the public safety team will tell you that one of our core things that we do, the why on our team is we believe in our responsibility to make this industry better for every telecommunicator. That's huge, right? Why do we believe that? Because we've lived it. Now, this team here at Public Safety, 540 years of experience in the comm center. What an amazing team to be on here. But it's more than that. It's that mission, that value, and that vision of we have a responsibility. It's not a commitment. It's a responsibility that's being given to us to say it is on you. Make sure you fulfill that. Is it motivation? I'm all about motivation. I love motivational speeches. Many mornings I get up, I'm not very motivated. I will get in the shower. I'll turn on YouTube and I'll put on Motiversity. Look it up on YouTube. Some great speeches and great motivation. But that wanes very quickly, right? That's a quick hit. It's a dose of coffee. It's some caffeine, right? It hits, it gets me going, and then I can move to the day. Motivation's great. I think it really is a grouping of these things. If you look at people who find purpose in their job function, they are 2.8% more likely to stay. They have 2.2% higher job satisfaction. That's cool, right? Because we talked earlier about the absence in the comm center, the empty seats that we have that we're trying to fill people. We find people who are motivated for purpose, then they are 93% more engaged at work. Now, I'm not saying that we have some people in the comm center who don't like to work. Not saying that out loud. But if we could empower our employees to feel 93% more engaged at work, to understand their purpose, to continue to drive that home, to say, hey, here's your motivation for the day. Here's the mission statement that we're going after. Here's how I'm going to live it out as a leader in this organization. Meet me halfway. Now that engagement goes up, and that continues again, grow that culture. Rounding this out, last piece here, intentionality. I'm a big lover of SEAL teams. I've had the chance to meet many of those amazing warriors. I've had the chance to meet some friends of mine who are previous airborne rangers. Just incredible, intensive person, right? Just, oh man, it's crazy. And the SEALs have a term about intentionality. It's when you're out doing your, walking the perimeter at night and you're doing guard duty, right? You're just out there walking, doing guard duty, just waiting for something to happen. The SEALs look at that from a standpoint like, no, that's not your easy job. Those are the moments when you're looking for work. You're ready. You're guarding your family. You're guarding your coworkers. You're guarding your military team. You should be looking for threats, not walking around waiting for something to happen. Now, when I think about intentionality on our team here, we're consistently and constantly, two different words, consistently and constantly looking for moments to impact the culture. How do we do that? This is Juliet from our team. We had an offsite again back in Denver, and I walked in. I had a bunch of strips of cloth, and I passed out. Everybody got one strip of cloth. They're different sizes, different lengths, different colors. And I said, hey, I just want us to do like a team building exercise. And immediately everybody goes, oh, team building. It's 8:30 in the morning, Jameson. Really a team building? I'm like, just bear with me. I want us to get together up front up here, and all of these pieces of fabric will fit together into a pattern. You've got to figure it out. You've got to figure it out. And I'll just tell you, it's a square, and it's colorful. And they're like, okay, all right. And they start to stand up. And I was like, hang on, one more thing. What you're actually doing when you put these together is that you're building a baby quilt for Juliet's baby. Well, okay, yeah, okay. I'm absolutely going to be involved in that. Yeah, let's get up here. Let's do this. 2 minutes. It took them 2 minutes to figure out the pattern, and they get it laid out in front of the entire audience. Fantastic work. And they were like super engaged. Oh, she's going to love this. Now, the intentionality of that, right? The purpose of that changed. They were motivated because now it's for somebody on my team. I get to care for somebody on my team. And I think about that moment, right? And then it was on my responsibility to figure out how am I going to put this thing together and sew this thing to make it beautiful, make it to a quilt. And I love the quilt analogy. I love quilts. I have some very old quilts that were handed down into my family because they mean so much to me. And when you look at a quilt like this, a patchwork quilt, it's much like our comm centers today. It's much like public safety. Some people are big, beautiful squares, right? They like the centerpiece of that quilt. Some are just strips that run for maybe 2 or 3 years, but they provide impact. Some of them, are filler pieces, right, to do the protective part of the quilt to keep you warm. But it's the stitching. It's the stitching between the pieces that makes it a quilt. Because without the stitching, without the belonging together, it's just fabric. And I think about how important that is for us as leaders. And if you're on this call today, you're a leader. 100%. I 100% believe that everyone leads. It is our responsibility to ensure that stitching doesn't get frayed and that when we stitch things together, they become very tight and interwoven and locked together. So that when that quilt is handed to someone who has had a house fire, right? When that quilt is handed to someone when their house is destroyed, we've dug them out from a tornado. When that quilt is handed to someone who's lost their child, and you wrap that quilt around them, that feeling of comfort, of warmth, of belonging, of safety is so important. And the same holds true for our teams today. Now, we as leaders get exhausted. Everybody on our team does. And there's a level of exhaustion that supersedes us sometimes, right? We can run, we get motivated, we have this major issue, we don't want to leave the chair because really great stuff is going down. It's like chaos. And we're like, yes, this is my moment. You're like, hey, can you go take a break? No, I'm good. And we work ourselves to that point of exhaustion. Now, the definition of exhaustion is to use something up completely. Completely. I have a really good analogy for this one. This group right here, this picture right here is actually Navy SEALs. They're from SEAL Team 3. They were in the Battle of Ramadi in Iraq, one of the biggest battles ever to occur. And this is about 4:30 in the morning. And I was doing a 3-day leadership seminar with them. Part of that was you get to join us for PT in the morning. Great. Here's that, because I am not a physical training person at all. So I had 2 main goals. My number 2 goal was don't die. Okay, that was my number 2 goal. My number 1 goal was don't puke in front of these men, because I was not going to embarrass myself. I would rather die than embarrass myself in front of facility members. And so we go out and we're doing this PT in the morning, way before dawn. It's a little bit cool. It's at altitude, or like 6,000 feet. And we're doing push-ups, sit-ups, burpees. Oh, they love burpees. Hoorah. And then running in place, jumping jacks, etc. And we're just doing all these different things. We did for like 40 minutes. And I was tanked. I mean, sweating, tanked. And like, all right, good job. Everybody gather around. I was like, finally, we're done. I am exhausted. And then something happened. JP Janelle, one of the SEAL team snipers that got to work with Chris Kyle as well, walked up with a bullhorn. And he was telling me, he's like, hey, we're going to do a cash out. I'm like, I thought we were done. I'm exhausted. I can't do anymore. He says, what we're going to do today is a cash out from my friend, Mikey Mansour. And Mikey was a machine gunner. He carried the Mark 48 machine gun, a very large machine gun, just an absolute warrior when it comes to that battle in Ramadi. We're going to do 48 gut checks for Mikey because Mikey carried the Mark 48 machine gun. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start and go 1, 2, 3, and come back and go 1, and we're going to slap our ribs. 1, 2, 3, come back at 2 and slap our ribs. And you're going to count on the rib slaps, or the gut slaps, and I'm going to count out. Everybody ready. And all of a sudden, I have this bolt of energy. I'm like, where'd this energy come from? Motivation and purpose. So we did 48 gut checks. And the closer we got, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. And when we have 150 or 200 people outside in the morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, doing gut checks, and we get the point that the further we went, the more effort we put into it, the louder we get, the more motivated we got to the point The last 5, we were echoing off the buildings of downtown Denver. That's culture. That's saying, I know you're exhausted. I know you're absolutely worn out, but the mission isn't done. So what can I do to help you, to motivate you, to make you understand that when you think you're exhausted, you're looking internally. How do I help you elevate your eyesight to realize that we have a little bit further to go, and we're going to walk it together because I care about you. And I know you're tired, and I know you're exhausted, but this is the moment we're going to walk together. Now, burnout, again, it's a little bit different than exhaustion, right? Exhaustion is a very short time frame thing. We use something up completely. We try to re-energize that. Burnout's that repetitiveness going on and on and on and on again. Now, we have a whole nother session on burnout, but I'm going to skip that for right now because I'm going to make sure we close on time today for any questions or comments. Burnout's huge right now in public safety. We're coming out of COVID. I mean, we're trying to backstop people now. It's very difficult. Now we're in this recession time frame. People are really worried. It is more important today than ever for us to start thinking about better ways to care for our team. Now, I will tell you, if you want a great, great book, covers a lot of things we cover here today, but also gives you some great insights on how to do that. That book is called The Culture Code. Super simple read. Everybody on our team has been through it. We actually did an internal podcast of our company discussing the culture code, how it impacts our teams. But there are also other moments, like exhaustion, burnout, or failure. When I started talking about culture at this company, I was scared because these people didn't know how many times I failed in my career in public safety. How many times that I approached an accident scene and just the ramp of all the emotions and all of the sympathetic nervous system response stuff earlier, and I'm super adrenaline pump, and you just see things that are just like, oh, this just doesn't make sense. This a human body shouldn't look like this. And the first thing you want to do is have somebody come help you. And so you get on the radio like, oh my God, extreme code 3 traffic. Da, 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 da. And you're like, that's what I remember. Folks, that's been nearly 28 years ago. And I'm still reliving that moment today, thinking about how dare I get up and say anything, because if they knew that one time I got on the radio and just freaked out because somebody's body just looked wrong. That's my failure points, right? When I didn't do my best for a caller because I thought I knew better. I thought I knew where they were when they were telling me I'm not there. And I sent in response to the wrong location. I think about the failure point to what we had in our comm center when I was managing someone, and they were on a personal phone call at work doing some gossiping. And then a house fire came in. And the person next to them was like, okay, I got this information. Fire department's en route. Another call came in, and it's about a house fire. Same street. Same call type. And because they weren't focused, they were like, oh, yeah, we have the fire department en route. Click. The absolute opportunity for 2 house fires to occur on the same street in a small town of less than 4,000 people on the same night at the exact same time are astronomically huge. But when it happened, we left a 93-year-old man to try to put out his house fire with his wife in there with a guard nose because we weren't focused. We weren't thinking. We just weren't engaged with, I want to help people today. And those failure moments, they're tough, and they eat away at me. And I'm sure that you can think in your mind, like, nobody's perfect. I have failed this before, or I wasn't my best. How do we move beyond that? I'm going to tell you something. And I want you to hear me very well. You cannot let the fact that we as a human have committed mistakes in the past stop you from being the best self that you can be. When those things creep into your mind, you have to realize nobody's yelling those things out at you. You go back and ask any of the responders where I used to work, hey, you remember that time Jameson got on the radio and just freaked out? No, he's always been super calm and collected on the radio. Like, no, not at all. Right? He's always super controlled voice. Because I failed once, I changed who I was. I changed how I approached the radio. Those failure moments for us are catalyst moments. They are moments that we have to be able to inject something and say, God, man, I really screwed this up. They will live in our brains forever, and that's my motivation. This is my last motivation. Braden was one of my best friends. He's a telecommunicator, paramedic, fantastic human, a bit of a smartass, just to be honest with you. I was at NEAN in 2012 in Long Beach, California. Braden had been falling asleep on the job quite a bit. He's having some medical issues. We were working through it. We're trying to. He just could not stay awake. And so I counseled him, I coached him, I disciplined him, and then I fired him. A few weeks later, when I was at the NEAN conference, I got a phone call in the middle of the night that Braden had been killed in a car wreck. And it was a Thursday. Won't forget it, because I remember, well, I looked at my watch. I did the time zone change. I was like, oh, if I hadn't fired Braden, he'd be at work right now. And for me, that has been a mantle, a burden that I have picked up and carried for so many years, because I want to make sure that I am part of the solution that fills the void left by the absence of an amazing responder. And so at that conference, and some of you may have seen this guy before, this is because I said I would. It's basically where you make a commitment to somebody on a piece of paper. And I made my commitment to Braden at that conference. I will honor your life. I will train to be better. I will serve my fellow man. And like Braden, I'm going to have fun the entire journey. Because if we don't, we're going to wind up failing again. And this has been my motivation, right? I don't know what your motivation is, but you can see that I've been living that motivation since June 16, 2012. For me, it's a big deal. For me, it's a huge commitment that I have to make to myself on a daily basis. Yesterday was Braden's birthday, and I got a chance to see his mom post some pictures of him, of us together. It's just amazing just to know that we all as a community are doing 10% more so that we can fill up the way that he lived. Today, we talked a little bit about longing, vulnerability, and intentionality. The first three are things that we can do. The last one is things that we have to commit to ourselves and find somebody on our team who's willing to walk that path with us, to intentionally look for moments to reach out to people. When I come across a great book that I like of leadership, or I'm thinking about, maybe it's a podcast event, or maybe it's just like a really great video I found on YouTube from Motiversity. When I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Who can I send this to that would make sense to me? And I run through my team in my head. Is it a team-wide share, or is it an individual person share? Oh, I know that Doc on my team is going to love this video. This is right up his alley. I'm going to be intentional about sending this to him. Like, hey, man, if you got 5 minutes, check this out. You'll see sometimes my posts say, hey, can I borrow 2 minutes of your morning? And basically it's a 2-minute video on Facebook or wherever. And it's just, again, trying to get people engaged and motivated. That intentionality goes across everything that we do. And if we as leaders have that moment to really look for that, then we can change our culture for the better. And I'm going to share one more thing with you. This is my email, my cell phone. Reach out to me, text me, whatever. Happy to have a conversation. When I do get down, right, and I struggle during this time of year. Time change every year just obliterates me, and things creep back into my mind, and I go into some pretty dark places. As a leader, I've tried to figure out ways to offset that, to find a way around that, to help my fellow man. When I get to those dark places, my commitment, my intentionality is when I turn internally and I start thinking about my darkness and my woes, then I make an intentional effort to find somebody on my team to go talk to and ask them how they're doing. I have an intentional moment to say, I need to go see, I'm going to make up a name, Sam, Brian, Kathy, whoever. I'm going to go find that person because I know maybe they're struggling too. Or maybe I just want to have a conversation like, how are you feeling? Hey, been under a lot of stress lately. What can I do for you? Hey, I'm just here to help out. Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything that I can do to take off your plate? Give me the most menial job. Let me just handle that for you. Why? Because if I don't, for me personally, when I turn inside, I stay there. And then I suffer and my team suffers. So for me, my intentionality is in those moments to turn to the team and go find people to impact in a positive manner. I don't know what yours is, but I'm just going to challenge you to say, I'm going to go find those moments in the coming year, to set up that moment to say, I'm going to impact my team in a positive manner. And what you're going to find is those small little pieces of catalyst, those small little vectors of injection, the small change in 1 degree or 2 degrees in a room will grow that culture exponentially. When you find what those things are, do them in a consistent manner, and then share them with the next person. Say, hey, I noticed you've been doing a lot of things. Tell me about that. Absolutely. How about we work together on this? I can't cover everybody all the time, 24 hours a day. So maybe you can help me through this process. Can you meet me halfway? Because I can't do it all alone. Culture is the most important thing that you will have in your comm center. If you don't believe me, visit the comm center that doesn't have one or has a terrible culture. Just try. It's amazing to see what we can do when we actually take time to care. So thank you. I'm open for any questions or comments in the chat over on the side. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Leah, I appreciate the time this morning. Again, the support this morning, getting this thing up and running in a remote environment.
No, thank you so much. I love this conversation because there was a time where it was non-existent. I mean, across the board, nobody talked about it, nobody addressed it. And it really is like you said, it is the most important things, those small things, being intentional. And I love that it's front and center now. And it really is a decision maker when people make moves in the industry.
Yeah, but we're bringing our entire staff in, 220 something people here this week to New York into the office. And tomorrow we're spending the entire day learning and growing our culture and talking about what's ahead and how we can assist each other. And
Absolutely.
It's just an amazing environment to be in. We can do the exact same thing in the comm center.
Yes, and people will stay. It's a key piece of recruitment and retention. It really is.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you to Rep SOS for being a gold sponsor. We look forward to seeing everybody in the next sessions. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank y'all so much. See y'all.